In this Sunday's Gospel, Jesus heals the synagogue official Jairus' daughter. And whenever I read this Gospel, the part that always sticks out to me the most is near the end when Jesus, even though he's been told the girl is dead, he comes to her and he says, Talitha cum, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise. And whenever I hear that word arise, I think of getting out of bed in the morning, which usually for me is really hard to do. And sometimes that's because sleeping is such a good thing and I just want to keep doing it. But sometimes it's more than that. It's because when I try to get out of bed, I am faced with all these thoughts of what might come up that day and all the ways that I might not be able to handle it, or I'll be inadequate to face what's ahead. But when we encounter that, what changes if we hear Jesus' response? He says two things that stick out to me in this reading, and the one is when he tells the girl to arise, but the other is when he says to her father and to the people, do not be afraid, but have faith. I think a lot of times when we're afraid to get up in the morning, it's because we're thinking that we're going to have to face that day by ourselves, and that whatever comes up, we're just going to have to be good enough on our own power, which I know that I'm not. And when I think that I have to be, it's really scary. And that it makes me want to stay in bed. It makes me want to stay there. But Jesus' message to us when we believe that is the opposite. Like he says to Jairus, the official, he says, do not be afraid, have faith. And that's what he says to us. Who are we in this story? Are we the father or are we the daughter? Do we have faith in Christ that he can raise us from the dead, that he can bring us through the day? Or are we the other people in this story who, when Jesus says to have faith, when Jesus says, she is not dead but sleeping, they ridiculed him? Do we let ourselves get caught in that trap of believing that things are impossible because God isn't going to come through for us? Or can we let ourselves believe and trust in him? Can we let ourselves, when we wake up in the morning and struggle to get out of bed, can we let ourselves trust in the Lord and know that whatever comes up that day, it could be the worst day of our lives, but that he will bring us through it? Can we believe that? When we wake up in the morning, what do we think? Do we think that day we're going to have to do some menial tasks? We're going to have to go to the office. We're going to have to do a bunch of things on our to-do list? That may be true, but what if we think too that God will bring us through it and that we are getting up to do the thing that he brought us to this earth to do? Do we hear his voice saying, do not be afraid, trust me? Do we hear his voice saying, I say to you, arise, to do the thing that only you can do, to do the purpose that I put you here for? I wonder how our lives would change and how much easier it might be to get out of bed in the morning if we let ourselves trust him and trust that.